Okay, so yeah, how can we transcend the goy and become a god?
Well,
sorry.
we introduced the discussion with understanding all of the systems in place to keep the populace as slaves, right? And all of the patterns to recognize, right, in principle, for what means of control you may be under, someone may be under. All these methods of control and systems can be recognized, and then you can oppose them, right? Not participate in them, right? Not comply, which is your divine responsibility to do, right? As a child of God, right? If you truly wish to not be a slave, if you truly wish to be free, right? It is your responsibility to not comply with slavery, right? That's basic. So now, moving into this next segment of the discussion, like once you don't comply, and you choose the path of freedom, what does that mean? And how do you pursue that in the greatest way to pursue your greatest self-actualization? To become, not as a goy, but to become a god.
There's three steps. Fix your mind, fix your body, and then fix your soul. Now, the first thing that needs to happen is to fix your mind. And to do that, you need to stop watching, stupid content on YouTube or Twitch. And, just instead of using your free time to consume bullshit and to be constantly insinuated by the system, you need to just take a detox from your phone. Basically, stop looking at that motherfucking phone. Because it's just a series of bad things in that. And then fix your body. Because the body can have profound impacts upon the mind and the behaviors of the mind. So if your body is weak, your mind will be weak. If your body is sickly, your mind will be just subpar. You won't be able to achieve the things you want to in life, obviously. So you need to start eating right. You need to start eating nutrient-dense foods, organic foods, no pesticides. You need to start ingesting the right things for your unique experience and scenario. And you also need to ingest water. That's probably the most important thing that you could do at the start. Is stop drinking tap water. Because obviously the number one thing that we consume on a daily basis is water. And if you're constantly being inundated with chemicals and heavy metals and hormones, you're never going to be able to fix your body. So you definitely have to do that. And for the soul, for the last part, fix your soul, you just need to change basically your entire outlook on things and build up virtue and get rid of vice. So if you have any huge vices that are limiting you, like you're a sex addict, a porn addict, you're a gambling addict, or a drug addict, you need to get rid of those things. And you need to replace them with virtues like discipline, like going to the gym, like forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do. Going for runs, eating clean, etc., etc. And it's beyond fitness or anything like that. It's just about disciplining yourself and dedicating yourself to something. So whether it's pursuit or just a general bodily thing that you know you should be doing daily, like cold plunging or using the sauna, you should be doing that.
For example, a good example, which is why I'm bringing this up, is you as a kid maybe around the wrong crowd, like just generally speaking, like anyone might be around the wrong crowd, right? Might be indulging in vice, right? Just like simple pleasures, whatever. And for you, you've shared that a lot of the people around you were doing drugs or partying, right?
Yeah.
Having a lifestyle of simple pleasures, right? That's where the attention was focused. But then as you got older, you started putting your energy towards very intensively virtuous acts, right? That require a lot of your attention, so much of your time and your energy and work put towards that, such as writing your book and inventing a new design for an engine, right?
The world will always lead you into vice, but it will never lead you into virtue. Doing virtuous things is something that you have to decide for yourself, and it's infinitely harder. Fucking a girl is easy. Taking that line of cocaine at the party is easy. But writing a book is difficult, and inventing something is obviously very difficult.
Right. And the difference in how your energy is appreciated, right? How it is invested, right? In a simple pleasure versus in a virtuous act is that how does it have an impact on the world, right? Because when you do drugs, right, just for the sake of a simple pleasure or a short-term high, a momentary experience, you feel something and you exert a lot of your energy towards that, and for many it becomes not only a momentary experience but a vice, which in the truest sense is a outlet to which you spend your time, that takes away from what you should be doing, right? Because you
it diverts your energy
for
into something negative. And not only does it have an impact on the world, because it definitely does, but it also has an enormous impact on yourself. Every time you do something that you don't want to do, or that you know that you shouldn't do, right? Like some kind of vice. Taking a shot of alcohol, for example. Every time you do something like that, it has a profound effect upon the magnetic aura of the body, of the soul, an observable thing. And every time you portray yourself like that, it makes you lesser of a being. And if you keep doing that, you eventually degrade yourself and you erode yourself deeper and deeper into this bottomless pit of weakness and despair. But if you can rise up and if you can dedicate yourself to something important, which is the prerogative of every real man, then that's the first and only real step to ascending from a goy to a god.
Yeah.
That's actualization, which is obviously difficult because it requires you to be disciplined and it requires you to be dedicated to doing something hard. And not everyone can do that.
Right. And I was saying, when you indulge in a simple pleasure versus a virtuous act, when you think about what impact that has on yourself and the world, like you know that when you put your time towards a virtuous act, it brings value to yourself, your family, community, and the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus,
Yeah.
A waste of your time.
Everything.
An example of just putting your energy toward where it will not be appreciated or where it would not kind of become fruitful as with time, right? But it will just be a waste of time, So it's just investing in yourself, investing in the future, for everyone and everything you care about, investing in the future of of the world. When the majority of people are on board with investing in a future for themselves in the world, like that genuinely makes a difference, right? And that promotes that God consciousness, your unique God consciousness and your unique self-actualization, but also the communal actualization and the ascension of global consciousness, right? And we have this technology, we have the means of a global communication network to unite everyone in a communal cause, right? We could use those tools to be better and to ascend, but still so many people are just illusioned by the trap and the money maze that keeps them running in circles when we could all be working together.
Yeah, the world is completely capable of utopia. The only thing that's stopping this utopia is the people that are ruling over us and turning this into a fucking hellscape, in which our kids are being, ritually sacrificed and raped en masse. So, and if that's not enough to galvanize you into doing something, then fucking I guess nothing will. And at this point, it hasn't become, there are no other options. You either ascend or you descend. We're at such a pivotal moment in human history right now. And I feel like everyone implicitly understands this with all the shit that's going on. That, something is obviously afoot. And big things are changing. And you could either ride the crest of the Great Awakening and ascend into something infinitely more, spiritual and greater, or you could fall off that wagon and become merely just sticks for the great fire that burns brightly into the future. You could just be fuel, right? Just shit for the fuel. Or you could be on that fire, going into the stars.
Yeah. The stars and the vast expanse of the potential of all space, and time, right? Transcending the bounds of your existence on this earth and in this perspective, in this limited perspective, in this limited space, relative space, right? To ascend beyond your form means to use this limited experience of, being in this body, right, of flesh, with, in an imperfect world, right, with free will, like you're in a limited form, right? Flesh is imperfect. You can get hurt. You can be disabled, right? You can feel intense pain, right, and suffering.
Yes.
Right, but through that experience, you have the potential to learn.
Yes.
And to grow uniquely, right?
Also.
And that helps. That helps you, right? That helps your greater self, which is beyond form, right?
Yeah.
Which is the greater existence beyond form.
That's the big picture,
right? That is your soul, right? We talked about mind, body, and spirit. Spirit is the union of all that is existing, including mind, body, right? But including the big picture, which is all encompassing. So how you nurture your spirit and how you spiritually ascend is removing any bad habits that keep your mind captive to serfdom, right? To being controlled, right? And keep your body unhealthy. It is optimizing your mental performance, your physical performance, your overall health, so that you can have the maximum amount of potential to grow, right? And how you promote your spiritual health, is being at that optimum in mind and body, and using that freedom, at optimum health, at optimum potential, using that potential to grow in every possible way, and to help yourself, to help your community, to promote those qualities of heaven, right? And that is the spiritual ascension. That is how you embrace, right, your greater form.
You have to be in control of yourself. Stop scrolling like a fucking retard on TikTok and fucking YouTube Reels, just doing nothing. Stop watching fucking Jewish porn all day and giving away your lifeblood. Stop fucking eating Wingstop and just fucking fueling yourself with all this bullshit. You need to take control of your life. You need to take control of yourself and your mind. And once you do that, there's an infinite potential for greatness ahead of you. You simply just must take control and realize what you're capable of, what your potential is.
Yeah, you're either building the chains that hold you back, or you're breaking the chains, right? And freeing yourself and using that freedom to become your greatest self. And your greatest self is not only success and wealth and health and abundance in this life, but it's also all of those qualities for your future children, right? And your family, your legacy, which is beyond form. It's beyond death, right? That is an immortal, God quality.
For your soul, for your kids, for the world, for God.
Right?
If you can't do it for all of them, then what can you do it for? Nothing.
That is life after death. That is transcending form, transcending any bound of limitation, of time, right, of mortal flesh. You are becoming a God, right? You are becoming a God in the sense that you have an impact on a timeless existence, right? And the elites know that, right? The elites use that principle, and they become gods in the sense that they keep people as slaves, right? Okay, so to finish the topic on to rise above the black cube circus that has been imposed upon you, right? That's training you every day to be a goy. On the topic of breaking free from that system, right? To break free from being a goy and to ascend to being a god, right? To reach your final form and beyond. To continue that conversation, I would say that it's important that you recognize all the means of control as we laid out in prior conversation. You work every day to get that done, and you pursue self-actualization and enlightenment in your unique regard, right? Pursue that divine will in your unique life, and then also bring that out in the best light collectively. And then just self-actualization and transcending form is so great, and it's the greatest version of you, and it's something so much greater than anything that you could even fathom. Like any feeling of suffering, temporary suffering, it's so much greater than anything that is so limited, right? Even all of your feelings of desire and anything that you can imagine, anything that you could want. It includes all of that, right? Well, I should say that simple pleasures and simple desires, if it's not in alignment with self-actualization as a part of like detachment of form, then like that's fundamentally different than achieving the greatest qualities of heaven.
Like simple pleasures like gluttony.
Yeah, I was
lust.
saying like transcending form is to achieve all of your desires and wants and passions and more. But there's a difference there. I wanna make that clear, because self-actualization is to go beyond any simple pleasure, right?
Yeah. You can't, be confined to your form and the wants of your flesh. Aristotle talks about this, that in order to achieve true happiness and to self-actualize your dreams, you need to be able to moderate your flesh. Like, you need to be in control. You can't let your flesh control you. The soul needs to control the flesh. And obviously that's self-explanatory. Just, eat the right amount, have sex the right amount, drink the right amount. Just be moderate in all things. And you don't need to be a bore about it. You don't need to be like a saint and go like, oh, I'm not going to drink anything, or I'm not going to, have sex at all. Just don't let it control you, right? You control the pleasure, and pleasure is one of those great things about life that we can all enjoy. But just don't let it control you, because then the pleasure starts to become a point of suffering.
Yeah. So any desire beyond simple pleasure and suffering is what is to be achieved in that transcendence of form, right? That delivery from sin, and to be welcomed into the kingdom of heaven is to pursue what is beyond flesh and form, which is like qualities of heaven that are beyond yourself, right? Beyond this life, and you start to think just beyond any boundaries of limitation, right? Like everlasting love, like everlasting abundance, right? True self-sufficiency and sustainability, and just complete wisdom transcending form, clairvoyance and peace and like promoting health, giving, providing. Like the more you think about these things, like the more you come to understand all that is limited and all that is greater. And all that is greater includes just such beautiful qualities of heaven. And to have an active relationship with those qualities, which are the qualities of God, God's potential, which is beyond form, you find that unity with that power within yourself to use that connection to strengthen your mortal path, right, and your path beyond mortality. So it's a great relationship, and it's something to think about every day, something to empower you, something that could, brings a tear to your eye. The more you come to know God and have that relationship, just to know that it is real, like these qualities of heaven, that God is real, qualities of God are real. Just to know that, and to know that you have the potential for that and are connected to that, is such a freeing, blissful, beautiful thought. It is a profoundly peaceful and beautiful thought.
And if you doubt that God is real, look at it like this. When you see a beautiful painting, you don't assume that the painting had no painter. And to assume that the universe had no creator and it simply just came to be despite the beautiful order of the universe, despite the symmetry and the rules and the laws in which life can thrive. Despite this, some people still may believe that God does not exist, which is not a serious notion. And all the people that rule over us, all the elites, all the oligarchy, all the Freemasons, all the extremely wealthy people that know a lot more about society than we do, they all believe in a higher power. And sometimes they'll seance something, more unsavory, more malevolent, more evil, like the demon Baal. But atheism, I think, is such a new thing. Throughout all of human history, we've all believed in God. We've all believed in something. And I believe that the reason why atheism came to be was so that the people that rule over us could more easily tell us what to do. Because if God doesn't exist and there is no right or wrong, then what will lead us? And what are the boundaries of society, the boundaries to our kind of more evil inclinations? So, were you ever an atheist, Ian?
No, I was fancied by the illusion of nihilism, but I wasn't completely aware of the definition of nihilism, so I naively somewhat identified as an active nihilist, but that was when I was very young. I was about 12 years old, and I've always had all these great questions about life and the universe and God, and all the great just wonders of all that exists, all that you're connected to. And I have always known that there's infinite potential, right? There's boundless existence, boundless life, and anything that I could think of is real because it comes from me and I come from God, which is everything, right? So it's, anything that I could think of would be just a recreation of God or just a remembrance, right, of God, right, or a reflection of God, right, or a distortion of God, right? So I had the thought that there's infinite potential for my actions, and I looked up what is, how do I categorize that into a belief system? And what came up on the internet was active nihilism, which defines the world and everything being so hard to understand, impossibly complex to understand, that someone may never understand it, and therefore you have infinite potential to pursue whatever you want to pursue. But now, knowing the full definition of nihilism, I know that it is a separation from that connection and that knowing, which is not foreign and which is not impossible to understand, right? That's a flawed way of thinking, and it subjugates you into being displaced from that connection to a knowing about yourself, your history, and your connection to creation for what brought everything here on this earth. So there is infinite potential, and my young, naive self, being connected to God, all of us are, we know these things to be true innately, but nihilism and atheism are crude distortions of greater truths like that.
It makes you more susceptible to manipulation.
Yeah.
Because there's no values, there's no foundation, there's no, ideology that could ever prevent something tyrannical from happening. Which is the reason why I think that it's been, so like pushed in the media and in the culture of the 21st century. But really there is no logical reason to believe in atheism that there's no God. I can see the case for agnosticism, but like I said before about the analogy about the painting, does that make sense to you, the analogy about the painting?
Yeah.
Because we can see that there's order and beauty in the universe, right?
Of course.
And if there's order and beauty in the universe, then clearly, if it's not just a soup of chaos, if there's order, there must be some kind of design behind it.
Yeah, and I mean, you just look at the human form, and look at how we have dominion over the earth.
And the complexity of the
I spoke about this
world.
In this kind of series of conversation. We are here for a reason, clearly. But ultimately, we've spoken at this at length, and it's just common sense. It's second nature to us. And it should be to everyone. Just know these things. Just know that you are connected to that wisdom, that knowing, and don't give up any sense of connection, right? Any sense of knowing, and just submit to the engineered idea that it's impossible for order to exist. It's impossible for God to exist, and it's impossible to know any such thing, or to know of any such thing. Because if you submit to that ideology, then you give away all of your power, all of your history, all of your connection to anything divine, and you give it up for someone or something else to impose its superposition over you.
I feel like humans are inherently predisposed to worship something. And if it's not God, it'll be the science, like in the case of atheism. Atheists worship science, Richard Dawkins and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He's an atheist?
Yes, of course he is.
He's a self-proclaimed atheist?
Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll shit on Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson's a monkey. No, not a racist thing because he's black, but look, the guy has achieved nothing in his life. He talks.
All he does is put people down.
No, he talks well, right? He speaks well. That's the only reason.
He's a smart black guy, and everyone worshipped the smart black guy.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, Neil deGrasse Tyson. But really, it's.
But he's never made any contributions to the scientific world at all, apart from put people down.
All he does is put people down and promote climate change and shit, right?
Yeah.
Just like Bill Nye and
exactly.
I don't know all these scientists.
Yeah.
Trust the science. Trust the science. Don't trust yourself.
The science will be your new god, and funnily enough, all the science is controlled. All the outcomes are curated by a certain group that has full control of the science, because science needs funding, right? The money needs to come from somewhere to do the experiments.
And science is not inherently bad. It's just distorted science.
It's just easily corruptible.
Limited, narrow-minded thinking is bad. But for some reason, these narrow-minded oligarchs, or they force the ideology into being narrow-minded.
Yeah.
They self-identify. They identify that with science. But it's tough because why do they get to claim science? They have claimed science, but someone like Nikola Tesla, a real scientist, a real philosopher, illustrated that God and science are interchangeable, and they cannot be separated, right? And
You don't need to listen to us on the matter. Nikola Tesla, so the greatest man, the most intelligent man to ever live, and who had innumerable contributions to the scientific world, believed that science and spirituality needed to be united for the true potential of science to be realized. And who fucking refute Nikola Tesla? If you refute Nikola Tesla, then you're just full of hubris and pride, and you were lost.
right. And one who would do that would likely be an atheist or a nihilist.
Well, not just a nihilist, and just a. And I think that nihilism also gives them the excuse that they can do whatever they want, right? Because if there's no right and wrong,
Yeah.
I can.
Nihilism is atheism.
Yeah, I can rape children.
Which is Satanism.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
It's ultimately Satanism. Because if there's no right and wrong, then why don't I kill 50 people because of a slight dislike, and then go rape 10 preschoolers at the kindergarten class? It's so just evil and satanic. And ultimately, that's the ultimate conclusion of nihilism. It's just evil.
All right, to conclude the conversation, to ascend from a goy to a god, in that godly realm, ascending beyond flesh, are all of heaven's abundant qualities, and it is profoundly beautiful. And I encourage you to look to the heavens, look towards that heavenly path, those heavenly qualities, towards God's qualities. Understand all that is, all wisdom, all knowledge, all your ancestors, all everything that has ever been done that is worthwhile, of meaning, and could be of meaning and could be worthwhile, is all waiting for you, right? And it's ready for you to however much you wish to pursue that. So it's just overflowing abundance, and it's beautiful. Signing off.
That's good.